here we are. Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm giving an update from my current reality. I'm in Israel. Usually I'm in Berlin. And I was quarantined for 10 days. And today is my first day of freedom, which is our topic for today. What a coincidence. It's not exactly a coincidence. This is a very special time in Israel. This week we had election and we're entering Passover. And Passover is the nickname, if you could call it, of Passover is the holiday of liberty. So it's all connected. And that's also why we chose to speak today about freedom and from the energy of freedom. And this also brings us to my little introduction about us and what we do here. My name is Noah, and this is Ruti. And together we are exploring what we call what really is, which is discerning between the way we got used to thinking and approaching and encountering life and ourselves and our relationship with concepts, with people, with life itself, from our thoughts, from the way we got used to approaching things. And what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it mean to live out of and from and with life when we're coming not out of our thoughts and not from the way we understand and concluded about life and about ourselves and about everything. This is my introduction. Ruti, would you like to add something?
I think that the actual beginning of it all, or the starting point, is that we are not our thoughts, and we cannot really perceive life from our minds, from analyzing our lives or ourselves or others, but from a different encounter that doesn't happen through our minds, but is our nature, is the nature of everything. And if we can discern between the dimension of thoughts, or I might say, when we can discern the dimension of thoughts, very, very easily, simply, we experience ourselves out of our minds, like really the way we really are, the way our nature really is. And that's what we are concerned with. It's not switching or altering one way of thinking with another. It's discerning between the realm of thoughts and what is not a thought. And then...
and also acknowledging that we have both. We do this. We don't even do this. It happens to us. We think, we perceive, and then we have this inner dialogue between those two dimensions. But one is what we call what really is. It exists anyway. It is the nature of things. And the other one is more like a projection, not to disrespect this projection, but it is a projection. If we don't think it, it doesn't exist. And that's a major point because sometimes we take it exactly the opposite. We think that what we don't perceive is not.
Right.
And before you said, if I make this discern, I don't know if that's English, when I do this, suddenly I'm out of my mind. And this is like a term that we got used to think as negative.
Yeah.
So, nice. So today we're talking about freedom, as I said, and I would like to put us in the topic from the Wikipedia definition, the first paragraph of what is freedom. And from there we can explore everything that we said. So, freedom generally is having the ability to act or change without constraint. Something is free if it can change easily and is not constrained in its present state. In philosophy and religion, it is associated with having free will and being without undue or unjust constraints or enslavement, and is an idea closely related to the concept of liberty. I will stop here. I think it gives us the spirit of how Wikipedia defines freedom. And I'd say this is the way most of us, like really most of us, define and perceive freedom. In our culture, in the Israeli culture, in the Jewish culture, this topic is, wow, it's so much. I don't know, I've never been someone else. I've never grew up in another culture. I assume it's very, very intense and deep concept in every DNA of men in any culture. But for us, for Jews, for Israeli, the reality of limitations, of persecutions, of restraint is so it makes us so it provokes us so strongly. And just to give the people watching us a tiny taste of what's happening now in Israel with the vaccination and with the corona, with the restrictions, it's super relevant for everywhere in the world. But now this is a huge, it's very intense here because there are people who don't want to get vaccinated, and they have restrictions now, and yeah, everything is super tense. And freedom is like, it's like the crown of this bubble, of this vibe, of this space. Really, if I would give a title, like in a birthday, when you hang the title happy birthday, freedom. So I'm taking you with me here with this vibe and with this intensity, Woti, and I want to hear you right from here.
Can you read the two first lines of the Wikipedia definition?
Freedom, generally, is having the ability to act or change without constraints. Something is free if it can change easily and is not constrained in its present state.
Yeah. So when we look at this from the mind, yeah, from the way we're used to think of what freedom is and what being free is, immediately we can find conditions here. Okay, whenever we come from the mind says if, then, and if not, then not. Then no, it doesn't exist. It's not possible. So the minute there are conditions there, fear comes into the picture. Effort comes into the picture, and also pros and cons It's a
Yeah.
separation. There are those who are with me, and there are those who are against me. And it's about coping now. It's about making sure that nobody takes my freedom, or that I gain enough power or status so that I can make sure that my freedom is expressed widely and also on a continuous basis. Immediately there's an either or, immediately there's friction, immediately there's also the sheer possibility that I will not be free. Slavery comes into the picture immediately when you talk about freedom that way. Because the minute there are constraints, you become, in this definition, something between like a prisoner and a slave.
Yeah. And the worst thing, no, it's not, maybe not the worst, but another layer of this in our time is that on the surface, you cannot really blame anyone. At least I'm talking in the Western current in Israel. I cannot say somebody is really slaving me. So I don't have a direct person to blame. And but because this feeling and this the way we perceive freedom is so deep in us, it's like sometimes it feels like we're really looking for someone, and we invent that somebody is doing this to us, even when it's really it's not happening.
Yeah. Part of that is because the mind, when we are in the realm of thought, the mind, the way the mind works is that it says, if something happens, it has to have a reason. And in order for you to know where you're at and to be secure and to be with enough certainty to be able to act in life, you need to figure out these circumstances and the way they influence you. So that when something happens to you, you immediately go thinking that's a responsible thing to do, to figure out which circumstances or which surroundings, who made you have to do that. When dealing with vaccinations, for example, when I coach people about this issue, and people really are at different places within themselves and within their environment, their surroundings, the question that I ask those who oppose and say that they are blaming the environment, they feel that they are like put in jail or are constrained to do something.
They're forced.
What I ask them is, if you were the minister of health in Israel or wherever, or if you were the one who is the expert for epidemiology, then what would you do? And most of them say exactly what is done today. Because at this level of uncertainty that we live, in these levels of uncertainty, in these levels of really figuring out how it is while we walk, while we advance day after day, even minute after minute, considering that we don't know so much and that we know so little, they would do the same. So immediately, the focus comes back to them, and they are called to, rephrase within themselves and then in their relationships with others to really ask them, if I would do the same as they, if that's the most responsible thing to do, why am I feeling like a prisoner? Why am I feeling like a slave? Why am I feeling as if my freedom is taken away from me? If that's what I would do. And most of what comes up then when we ask this is that they are not able to do whatever they want to do, whatever they are used to do. They're not able to act as they always have, as they wish now. And that, in their minds, is freedom. Okay?
Just like in Wikipedia.
Yeah. So that when I can, with no constraints and without difficulty, do whatever I wish to do, that's called freedom. And at that moment exactly, whenever that's challenged or even prohibited, the other person, the one who does that, or I'm looking for a person to blame because I feel as if my freedom is taken away from me. In other words, when I perceive myself, when I perceive myself as my thoughts, my habits, my dreams, desires, and my fears, then whenever those are challenged, I feel as if I'm enslaved. First of all, I'm in danger. And then I'm also either enslaved or jailed somewhere. But what if, or what can we see since we are not? We are much more much greater, much more beautiful, much more mysterious, much more wondrous, awesome thing than our thoughts, our desires, our habits. What if I can be totally happy, absolutely alive, glad to be alive, cherish the moment when I am deprived of things I need, things I believe that I need, or I face a situation where my fears rise. What if those have nothing to do with my, we may call it my level of happiness, or the amount to which I feel bliss?
This is challenging because you're actually saying you don't need to fulfill your dreams. You don't need to have certain conditions. You don't need anything to be blissful, to be happy, to be free.
Yeah.
That's pretty radical.
Yeah, let's just redefine free, because bliss, yes, that's what I'm saying. Free, or maybe we'll go like that. How can that be? Okay, the mind says exactly the opposite. The mind says, as much as you get what you believe that you need and what you really want for yourself in life, the more happy you'll be. That's a non-brainer, says the mind. But actually, it has no connections. If it has any influence, then whenever I believe that I need something, fear and the way to control me because is higher. Because if I believe that I need something to be happy and you can give it to me or deprive me of it, then you can control me. Whenever I know that I may really want to live in that neighborhood, to educate my children in this school or that way of bringing up children, having that person as my spouse, I can see that I can want this, but if I won't have it or if it doesn't come out as I thought it would, that has nothing to do with bliss. That has nothing to do with the energy of life that's flowing within me, which gives me life and gives everyone else life. And when I mean life, when I say life, I don't mean not dead. I mean really being alive, with happiness, with zeal, with passion, with very clear sight, with the knowing that I'm one with everything, with love and joy. This. And if I put myself in that realization, not trying to figure out, to understand before I say yes to it, but just realizing that that's the way that it is, that these are two different realms. One is of the mind, and it says, I need, I desire. If it is fulfilled, I'm happy. If not, then not, and so on. The other one is just the truth, the way things are.
But what about situations? Let's go like tachlis. Let's go down to the like, because okay, I can hear you and I can say, fine. Then why not having slaves? Why not suppress others? They can be bliss, you know. Um, I remember we had a coaching session once about me being in Germany, and the right wing rises, and my thoughts went to the scary scenario where I'm a foreigner, Jewish foreigner in Germany, and what if I don't know, there are places, you know, just like the World War II scenario. There are places I cannot go. There are things I cannot buy. I don't know, maybe my internet is limited. Maybe people look at me on the street and spit at me or curse me. And I become shrinker and shrinker, and I obviously want less to leave the house. And then I don't know, maybe they're coming to my house and throw things at my window. This is not, I mean, I don't know if I can be in bliss in this scenario.
Yeah.
And if I'm taking this to our reality now in Israel, let's take it far, okay, with people not getting the vaccine. And people are enraged about them because they are danger and they are not acting with solidarity to their opinion. And, you know, it happens like that we persecute each other.
Yeah. That happens because we're in our minds. It happens because we believe that we need to eliminate whatever is an obstacle and to cherish, enhance, take care of whatever is adequate in our opinions. Bliss is not that. It is not being glad that something happened because it happened my way, or it correlates with my opinions or what I believe should be. Coming back to Germany, for example, just to follow your example.
Yeah.
There are two things that are important to understand when we talk about the difference between the world of fear or the world of the mind and the way things really are, their natural being. And that first one is that when something like that happens in Germany, the thing that you could see very clearly in the Holocaust is that there were people who came out of these terrible, terrible, terrible times very like this desperate, with no hope and no belief in human beings, traumatized, very afraid. And they continue to live like that. And when I say continue, I mean it becomes worse because I withdraw from the world. I don't believe in people. The fear takes control of me, so that is actually how my world looks, my reality looks. That's how I bring up my children. That's what happens to me when I'm withdrawn or with tantrums of fear and anger. That's how it goes when I go like that, of course, with no judgment. Other kind of people, or other way that I found that people were translating these, again, terrible, terrible times, is to know the difference between the way, for example, the Nazis were looking at them and what they knew that they are. They did not become what the Nazis were thinking of them or how they perceived them. The Nazis had control over their lives and bodies in the sense of physical existence and food, drink, diseases, and so on. But they had no control over their souls. When I say bliss, what I mean is to discern this and to understand that the bliss comes out of this inseparable unison between me and the one, and also everyone. That's why, for example, when there are movies about women who fell in love with Nazi soldiers, it looks very, very natural to me.
Yeah, to me too.
And also, it's so, on the one hand, it's so, it's almost impossible to perceive how horrible it was and what humanity came to see, to encounter, to be accountable for. And on the other hand, it's so natural to fall in love. It's so natural to also be an inspiration. There are women who are great inspirations to Nazi soldiers, also that made them help Jews. It's like this, if we don't get confused thinking or trying, beginning to look at ourselves as if we are what the Nazi person thinks and sees, and what I can see in his eyes, then my nature takes over.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's fair to say, but like the secret, I feel it comes down to my relationship with myself, of course, and to get really, really, I don't know, like rooted in the knowing that I'm not a thing.
Yeah.
Because back to the Wikipedia definition, so the ability to act or change without constraint, to be free, not constrained in a present state. So it's basically to know that I am motion.
Yeah. Mysterious motion, and that's the difference. When we talk about change, and I need to go back to Germany for one more thing in a minute, but when we talk about change, we think that we are something and we can be more flexible, change our circumstances, and so on. So
that's what we call change.
Yeah,
I switch from state to state, from shape to shape, from role to role.
Yeah, shape to shape is already going far. Usually we're in the roles, in the circumstances. Can we impact the circumstances? And then we can allow ourselves to say things we couldn't before, dream dreams we couldn't before, and so on. It's about flexibility. It's about more or less. But the basic assumption is that there is me and I am a thing. I'm a collection of qualities, possibilities, body attributes, and so on. When we really look, we see that this basic assumption is wrong. We are not a thing. We are energy. We are energy moved by our beliefs and our perceptions, and especially by our nature. The way our nature is brought about, the way our nature is expressed, the way our nature meets that moment. Okay, so actually in every moment we live, and there is like a combination or it's like a cocktail of our nature and the image we've grown to believe that is us, made of thoughts, of beliefs, of fears, of desires, of needs and habits. When we can discern between them, then if coming back to Germany, if such a thing happens and you encounter circumstances that are changing, and you encounter danger, and you encounter limitations, and you find yourself unwanted in what was your home up till now, then the ability to not see things as they see you, not see yourself, I'm sorry, as they see you, makes it also possible for you not to see them as they perceive themselves. Okay? Because you'll be listening to them from your soul and not from the story we've grown to believe that is us and the world and the relationship between. That would make you very aware, very alive, very in touch with what really is happening on the one hand, not blurring anything, not telling yourself stories that would make it more comfortable, but would put you actually to sleep like anesthesia. But on the other hand, it would allow you to create contacts with people who are now against you. And it would be very difficult for you, for them, to keep looking at you as they did before, or wanting to do to you whatever they did. That does not mean that you would not leave Germany if that happens. I hope not, if that happens in Germany. Okay, it doesn't mean that you stay there, but it means that who you are is actually very, you know yourself, you know your nature better than ever. And you also know that you are not this image that you've grown to believe that you are more than ever, thanks to what just happened. Okay, so actually they are trying to minimize you, to limit you, to weaken you. And actually what happens is exactly the opposite.
Maybe we can take this to the context of men and women. Mm-hmm. Because we all know the history of women and the suppression. And I think that really triggers us these days when a man is patronizing, trying to control me, trying to tell me who I am. It can really turn us on, like, and not in a good way. And I don't know why, but I have the feeling to ask you from the coaching sessions, because I know you're coaching many couples and of course, men and women as individuals. And do you see what happens? Maybe you can give us, of course, with keeping privacy, what happens when we wake up to this acknowledgement that we are not a thing and we don't need to protect ourselves from oppression? And how does it change? What happens suddenly in the dynamic between a person and themselves, and also with their partners?
First of all, I'm not saying that we never have to protect ourselves from oppression. Okay? Sometimes we need to get out of a situation and fast because it's pathological, because it's dangerous, and we have to do it smartly, wisely, and we have to do it with no lingering. We have to do it. Okay? Now, having said that, let's go to what really is happening there. So, when we are oppressed, what we want to ask is, first of all, it's important to know why this other person is trying to oppress us, okay? Or if we are the oppressors, individually or as a state, we need to, or as a community, we want to ask, what makes us think that we need to oppress? Okay, because this is not natural. Our nature is like nature. It's like everything has its own place. And when an animal is eaten, it's in the right measure. It's not because someone is putting something, to save for the winter, but because, or they want a lot so they can sell and then sell it and make money. It's because it's needed. And then when what's needed is eaten from the animal, it's left for other animals to finish. Okay? It's the right amount that gives life.
Yeah, or if it's with territory, then but there are struggles, there are fights.
Yes.
But no oppressions.
Right, because the fight is for the strongest to take control so that he can protect the herd or protect the female while she's, but it's not in order to be more. It's not in order to have more. It has nothing to do with my needs or fears that are not my nature.
Yeah.
Okay? With human beings, since we have the ability of thought, we can create in our minds a reality that doesn't comply with nature and is not derived from it. Okay? It is derived from our fears, from our desires to be something that we're not, to have something that we don't have. If we would use that with humility and love, that is beautiful, because this is a quality or an attribute that we were given. We are created like that.
Yeah, it is also part of our nature.
Right.
Yeah.
But if we use that in order to control others, in order to oppress, in order to have more, in order to save ourselves from fears that our mind has created, not from fears, that then it becomes hell. So when we allow ourselves to really know the difference between them, then when I'm oppressed, I would like to understand why this person believes that he needs to oppress me. Does he think that I would go against him? Does he think that I do not love him as he is? Does he think that he would not be appreciated if he comes closer to me?
Or if he's not expressing mighty power or or patronizing, or
yeah. But it comes always from lacking.
Yeah.
Not real lacking,
yeah.
but imagined or fantasized lacking. So he or she feel that they are undeserving, or that they are in danger, or that something can be avoided and be
prevented from them.
Prevented from them, taken away from them.
Yeah.
And then they would need to control. Controlling someone, oppressing someone is very, very hard work. It needs to be in constant maintenance. Fear is what moves everything, what makes everything work. And we become more and more afraid, and we become more and more detached from our true nature.
Right. It's a lot of effort to control.
That's why the question of why is he oppressing me? Okay, if he would ask nicely, wouldn't I help him build the pyramids? If he would ask nicely, really, if he would ask nicely in the supermarket that I would buy her the plums that are now new and very expensive because she has no more money with her and she can't afford it, but she really would love it and she would approach me and ask me for it. Would I not give it to her? And how would the world look if we would say, of course, can I buy you something else? Because the budget that I came with or the amount of money I have in my bank account really allows me to even buy her a watermelon, not just plums. And I can see her happiness and it would make me happy. Okay? But if I think fear, if I think lacking, then I'm in survival. I'm in a survival mode. So I don't do that and I don't ask for it and I don't believe that people will give it to me. So the first thing is that I want to ask about them so that immediately they also become human beings again for me, because I don't look at the shell or the story that I encounter with them, vicious, cruel, that which they are at that moment, but I encounter the people that they really are.
So when somebody obeys me to do something, let's say that they feel like they can.
Instructs you to do something.
Yeah. Then you say, what will happen if I say gladly?
Yeah.
How would you like me to do that?
Right, exactly. And truly with your eyes as you have now, really from a very intimate place. For example, I'll give an opposite situation, but same way to approach. There are the Israeli soldiers keep watch. It's like mahsom. It's like it's a border.
Like a checkpoint.
Yeah, checkpoint. They need to guard and protect checkpoints. And since the Palestinian population is very entangled with us in parts of Israel, then there are many checkpoints. And one of the most wonderful Palestinian women that I've met said to me that most Palestinian women that I've talked to, and I'm talking about 450 at least, said that the soldiers in the checkpoints were acting accordingly to what they should. They were polite. They came with good intentions, and they also were, it's a tragedy what happens between us. It's like it really shouldn't happen between people. So they could see it in their eyes. But there are sometimes soldiers who that situation is very, very difficult for them. And they just like block their feelings. And they become sometimes cruel and sometimes cruel. There are different kinds of cruelty. This young woman, Palestinian, coming from the Islam, said that when she was passing the checkpoint, there was a soldier who flashed at her, meaning he didn't have any clothes on. It's very, very rare. Didn't have any clothes on, and he just opened his, and we were coaching on it. And what she came with is that she wants to tell him the first initial feeling or thought is, I need to be very strong. I need to make him understand that he cannot do that to me, but in the checkpoint, he is the responsible one with force. The strength is with him. The rifle is his, and she's going through. So she was afraid. So she felt very helpless because she wanted to be strong, but she couldn't. And then what came up in the coaching is that she wants to tell him that he frightens her, and that she comes from a culture that's so not accustomed between men and women, any kind of intimacy in that manner. And she had to do it only once. She went through the checkpoint, she looked at him, and she said, you know, when you do that, it's unpleasant to me, and it really frightens me. And he immediately closed his coat, and he said, I'm sorry. And it never happened again. Because when she was looking at him as a human being, and she allowed herself to be a human being there, then he couldn't anymore blur the fact that she is a woman and that she is a human being and that she has feelings, and he couldn't block his feelings anymore. And that was the way that it is. From there also Palestinian family that I was close to, they had a house that was really on the border, and sometimes soldiers needed to go up on the roof to see what was happening, if there were riots and so on. And she said that her family was very afraid. She was a very inspirational woman. And when we started meeting also with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Israel, through them, thanks to them, with 450 Palestinian women, they came, she wrote to me on the WhatsApp, and she said, last night, soldiers knocked on our doors, asking to go up to the roof to see. There was trouble. And I thought to myself that maybe it's your son knocking on the door. So I opened the door. Usually we try to hang on as much as we can not to open the door, and we collected the children and brought them into a certain room. And I opened the door, and the soldiers asked nicely, as they do, can they go up to the roof? And I, since I thought of your son, I asked them to say hi nicely to the children, and then they can go up the stairs. So they came and they smiled and they said hi. And they said that they're going to go on the roof, and the children asked them to go with them. So they took hands and they went up to the roof. And she said, I would never do that if I didn't think of your son. So those moments, and these are moments in time, when you don't give into the story that the mind is telling you, the consequences, the ifs and thens that are involved, but actually really just looking at it and seeing the person that's there. Miracles happen. Not always, and sometimes you need to move and to go sometimes to seek shelter, sometimes you have no
Probably
choice.
sometimes to fight.
Yeah.
Probably.
But if you know what we're speaking of today, and you know that you are free, because when you are living your nature, when you're really obeying to it and not to the story of your mind, then you become your nature. You live out of that wisdom, not the wisdom that's very fragile and much distorted of the mind.
And limited,
Yeah.
super limited.
Right. And conditioned, so that actually when we go to the mind to be free, we actually become dependent, because we again believe the consequences, the circumstances, the conditions that we believe to be what will make it possible for us to do something or not. But if I go to my nature, then what I live, what I express, the place from which I create relationships is that place of where we're one, where
The strongest word is intimacy.
yeah.
If I keep myself, not forcing myself, but reminding myself, constantly reminding myself, intimacy. I feel it now as I say it. It's like magic. It's in a second. I'm there. In a second, everything can happen from here.
Right.
And the pictures and the images and the characters and the roles, they melt.
Right. Exactly.
And it's not just intimacy between people, it's intimacy with life
and nature. When we're intimate with our nature, then we can really it's like we're going to speak next week about Easter. And you might say relationship between the realm of the eternal and the realm of the temporal, the realm of what is passing, what is here for a while and then dissolves. And one of the major things that discern between those dimensions is the realization, and it's a beautiful word in English because it says also acknowledgement and also fulfillment, like putting it into real life, entering into reality with it. The thing that discerns is that in the temporal realm, we come from ourselves. We are the creators. We are the doers. We know what is needed to know. When we come from the eternal, we know that what you call now intimacy, that the basic, most fundamental understanding, or it's like the constitution of oneself, is in the way that it is, in the truth, in our true nature. And every time we do that, whether we can understand how this will come about or not, whether we know what to do or not, we will be carried by this oneness, this mysterious love that will prevail, because it is the only thing that is true. And if I allow myself to be there, then that's bliss. It's not happiness because something happened that I wanted it to happen. It's not that I control circumstances in order to be free. It is that now I am aligned. It's like the little prince. Now I'm aligned with this creation. Now I know how it works because I'm one with it. And from there, miracles happen. And we'll talk about miracles next time.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy Passover. Blissful Passover. And see you next Friday morning before Easter.
Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.